Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2025 Global Symposium on Belonging. Thank you to our wonderful host, Erin, hello, got around there fast, and thank you for kicking things off. And thank you to my dear friend, Jen, for that kind introduction. When you were mentioning a story and then said the year, I thought, oh no, it wasn't that one. So I'll tell very quickly the one I thought that you were going to say. Remember the colored markers? I was having a moment. We were planning one of our symposia, and it was just, I always talk about there has to be magic. Do all the other work, yeah. And then if you succeed, you'll know it because there's some magic there. And the magic just wasn't there that day. And so Jen goes, I know what you need, because I love, you know that, I love colors. And she just brought in this whole, probably the biggest box of colored pens that you could imagine, and just dumped them in my lap. And I said, okay, well, we can do this. So your story was more meaningful. But I just wanted to mention what I was thinking, so you know. It's an absolute joy to be here with all of you. There's lots of familiar faces in the room, and I'm really happy to see so many new faces as well. This, as you know, is our 5th Global Symposium, and I'm always so touched by the incredible turnout and enthusiasm that all of you bring to this important work we do here. So thank you, everyone in this room, including those who traveled from far and wide to be here. I do believe in all of you. When I say this is a global symposium, I really mean it. This week, we're joined by folks from Peru, South Africa, Belgium, Nigeria, Australia, and beyond, which I think speaks to the growing power of this movement. The conversations we're going to have here over the next few days will shape the next phase of our work as a global community. Please know that you are safe here, surrounded by peers, and your voice matters, so don't be shy. Your insights are crucial, and we are privileged to have you with us. I'm really excited, and I hope you are too. I want to start with what I'm feeling right now, most of all, which is gratitude. Gratitude to you for making the time to be here and for choosing to spend your energy and efforts with us. Gratitude for all the creativity, dedication, and heart in this room. On a personal level, I feel deeply moved being here with all of you. It felt like it was going to take forever to get to this day, and now it's here. I feel like this room in this moment exemplifies the very spirit of belonging. Being fully present in who you are, connected to those around you, and working together with common purpose. I hope you feel it too. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. You'll get there, I promise. How I feel right now is, dare I say, how we're all supposed to feel all the time. We should feel like we belong, like we're whole, like our voices matter, like we're doing good work in connection with other human beings. Unfortunately, too many of us don't experience this belonging every day. That's partly because there's heaviness in the world right now that we just cannot ignore. A lot has changed since our last symposium 3 years ago. We are in a period of immense uncertainty and insecurity, and we are facing so many intersectional crises at once. The headlines are downright dystopian and reliably unrelenting. If you feel overwhelmed, just let me say that you are not alone. I do too. And since part of the work of building belonging is sharing vulnerability, I'll share a bit of my own. People sometimes say something to me that goes like this: Kim, belonging sounds lovely, Very nice. But shouldn't we focus on the existential threats first? Things like climate disaster, nuclear risks, violence, AI. Sometimes they say it directly, other times it's just a feeling I pick up on. You know, like when you think you're having a conversation with them and they're asking you all about what you do and you're still talking and they're walking away, stuff like that. And let me be clear, I deeply respect where this impulse comes from. Let's look at the state of democracy as an example. We've seen the rise of far-right authoritarianism, toxic polarization, and political violence. The rule of law is deteriorating before our very eyes. Governments are increasingly exercising coercive power against law-abiding citizens. Oligarchs and corporate interests are buying out media organizations left and right, censoring the news we consume in the name of shareholder profit and stakeholder rage. Democracy is truly under threat, just like so many other facets of our lives. But here's the thing. This is precisely why I work on belonging and why I imagine many of you are here. I believe that belonging is the fundamental precondition for solving the biggest problems we face. It's the common thread for how we address all of our biggest challenges. On democracy, renewal only happens when people feel seen, safe, and heard, and they're able to exercise power and have their fundamental rights respected. Or consider climate. We can decarbonize faster and fairer when a shared fact base, trust in institutions, and solidarity make a just transition possible. With technology and AI, we need a moral community that prizes human dignity, consent, and accountability over speed and convenience. In public health and mental health, prevention and recovery depend on the relational nets of family, peers, and community. In the economy, resilience and equitable growth require common goals, high-trust teams, and workplaces where creativity, credit, voice, and a sense of security are shared. Durable safety takes hold when neighbors know and need one another and recognize that, and when power is exercised with, not by or for. Diversive societies thrive when there's respect, recognition, and reciprocity in practice. Said another way, belonging is the infrastructure of sustained problem solving. And the problems we face require sustained, thoughtful solutions. Now, there's been a lot of attention paid lately about how loneliness and social isolation are on the rise. The World Health Organization Commission on Social Connection published a landmark report just a few months ago. The WHO found that social isolation and loneliness are widespread, with serious but under-recognized impacts on health, well-being, and society in general. And former US Surgeon General Vivek Murthy declared loneliness a public health epidemic in America, affecting nearly 50% of Americans. People are talking about these crises, and of course that's a really good thing, raises awareness, because they're both part of the belonging deficit. In our research, including two 10,000-person studies in the UK, and now a large-scale project in Canada, we found a serious crisis of social disconnection, with disproportionate levels of loneliness among people experiencing poverty as it exists across multiple dimensions, including, for example, housing insecurity. And so addressing loneliness and social isolation by tackling underlying systemic failures is essential. But underpinning all of this is the pervasive, insidious cultural story that says we are not really in it together, that we are on our own. That story is the wound beneath the serious symptoms we're talking about. Rather than aspiring to collective progress, we've so often come to think in terms of individual baseline survival, and our structures and systems have reinforced this. But my friends, we are here to dream and create together. This is a space where we can imagine better. And we must, because the status quo can't stand. We are here to fight back against the story that says, don't count on anyone, you're on your own. And so we're in this together becomes more than a slogan. It becomes the ethos that saves us. So how do we help this ethos take hold deeply and personally? How do we go forward amid uncertainty? How do we even begin to tackle something as big as belonging? Well, we know we won't have every answer, but we can still take the next faithful step, one foot in front of the other. Because out of so much despair, we can build a beautiful new story. The late Leonard Cohen, a prolific Canadian musician and poet, wrote in his song, aptly named Anthem, "There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in." So let's tell the truth about what's broken and make room for the light by mending together. We do this by building a movement, one that affirms belonging as both a right and a responsibility. And let me be crystal clear about this point. This is not a membership club or a movement with gatekeepers. There are no barriers to entry here. It's the only way it works. Every person, by simple virtue of being born, has the right to belong. And each of us has a responsibility to build belonging in our lives and in the systems we touch. And so we are here today, ready to move the work forward. Over time, I've realized that we need a set of common principles to unite and guide this movement, and living examples to accelerate action. I've spent years asking questions and learning from wisdom keepers and courageous doers, people leading grassroots movements, and people just trying to keep their heads above water and food on the table. I've spoken with those who really get it, and others who have never given belonging a second thought. There have been thousands of conversations with people from all walks of life, all corners of the world. And today we put forward, drum roll, a single page of core principles, simply to carry, strong enough to guide policy, practice, and narrative, a charter for belonging. The charter begins, oh, that wasn't for that. I'm not done yet. I just know that sooner or later there's going to be a good slide that shows you what I'm talking about. It's why when asked, would you like to speak with PowerPoint or just on your own? Oh, I'd rather just connect with everyone. It's because I can't figure it out. And I would rather just connect with everyone. The charter begins with a simple preamble about the challenge before us. We face a global crisis of belonging, it says. Despite today's unprecedented interconnectedness, societies all over the world are facing critical levels of loneliness, social isolation, polarization, inequality, ecological degradation, digital addiction and abuse, decline in the common fact base, and deteriorating mental health. These may appear to be separate issues, but they are all symptoms of a profound isolation from each other and from the places we call home. To address this multifaceted crisis, we need core principles and a common vision to inspire action. Here are the 7 core principles. 1, every person, by simple virtue of being born, has the right to belong. This is not a privilege that can be granted or withheld by the government of the day. It is a birthright. Each of us deserves meaningful relationships, connection to the places we call home, agency over our circumstances, and a sense of purpose. 2, without belonging, societies fragment, trust erodes, and we lose our capacity to face shared challenges. Social isolation and authoritarianism grow where belonging is denied or channeled into us versus them thinking. By contrast, upholding everyone's right to belong strengthens democracy, individual and collective dignity, and connection. 3, belonging is the basis of human flourishing. It is a profound and personal idea. Belonging is wholeness. When we belong, we feel valued, secure, and connected to ourselves, others, and the natural world. 4, we commit to grow a shared vocabulary and narrative for talking about belonging. This can be grounded in a common framework of 4 essential dimensions. Some of you may be familiar with the 4 Ps. People, reciprocal and meaningful relationships. Place, natural ecosystems and built environments where we feel at home. Power, voice, choice, and agency in shaping our own lives. And purpose, the capacity to believe in and contribute to something greater than ourselves. That takes imagination, too. 5, we commit to accelerate what already works. We will recognize and connect the builders of belonging across communities and institutions, share and scale proven practices, develop and use common measures of social connectedness and belonging, and safeguard the conditions, economic, digital, civic, and ecological, that enable people to thrive. 6, we need a shared vision, a theory of change, and a unified movement for belonging. This allows us to share experiences openly, amplify progress, avoid duplication, and spark solutions no single actor could ever achieve alone. And finally, 7, all sectors, governments, businesses, schools, media, faith communities, and civil society should seek to understand and measure the impact they have on belonging and intentionally advance it. And to do this, you need to value it, and that's where it all begins. So, this charter serves as a simple starting point for our movement. It is also an instrument, a practical reference for engaging power and institutions, a resource hub we will co-create. In the coming days, we'll be asking you to share your insights and examples. We'll be working together to identify actionable ideas for making these principles real. And we'll shape the roadmap together. This is a living document. It is not a monopoly on the meaning of belonging or an irrefutable prescription list. The novelist, poet, farmer, and environmental activist Wendell Berry advised me years ago about how to build this movement for belonging and how to write a book. Don't be prescriptive, he said. This is about converging around simple core principles based on expansive input and then co-creating and implementing pathways to realize them. So thank you for your insights, your contributions, and your expertise as we move forward in this essential work together. I want to end by talking about something that's going to be the topic of my next book. the connection between belonging and faith. A few years ago, I was asked by a dear friend, academic, and UK-based faith leader about what was missing in the conversation around belonging. And I answered her immediately. I said, faith. Because faith and belonging are deeply connected. Let me explain. I believe that we are put here on this earth to do good deeds, to show up and make our best attempt at living a purpose-driven life. And whether you are guided by the true essence of faith or guided by the core principles of belonging, or both, you will end up in much the same place, doing similar acts of service and living by similar values. And just to be clear, by faith, I'm not referring to the term in a strictly religious sense. Rather, I'm talking about our personal connection to the divine, whether it's through a shared belief system, the natural world, or something internal and intrinsic. I imagine faith as a perennial, sacred river, where I can choose to sit by the banks and watch. But if I get distracted or turn away for a few minutes, I know it's still there. My faith is rooted in quiet reflection and a steady, unwavering belief in a river that's always flowing and eternal. Now, I get it. Some of you may be sitting there thinking, Kim, I'm on board for belonging, but I'm not a person of faith. But I would suggest that you being here in and of itself is a radical act of faith. Faith in the unseen potential of one another. Belief that a better world is possible. That humans have worth beyond utility, which ties so clearly into the fourth dimension of belonging, our connection to purpose. Or, put another way, believe in something bigger than ourselves and acting with intention. In 2023, I was speaking at a special University of Oxford event called Discovery of Belonging, alongside Father Erik Varden, a Trappist monk and the Bishop of Trondheim in Norway. During our discussion, Father Erik remarked that a monastery is a self-contained community where belonging is practiced in an extreme manner. He recounted St. Benedict in reminding us that a monastery is never without guests, and all guests are to be welcomed as Christ. Let's pause on that for a second. All guests are to be welcomed as Christ. And I've been in my spare time getting ready to the Symposium and my daughter's wedding a few weeks ago. Reading here, going a little beyond the Google search to books that have been annotated for me, but this tradition of hospitality, which is what this is talking about, really appears in all faiths. And it appears in most everything that we come to, that there's something that we can believe in that we can't see. Hospitality, then, is rooted in acts of service to all people, without prejudice, without discrimination, and without the expectation of reciprocity. And to me, that's a really powerful idea. And what a beautiful example of faith-inspired belonging. There are lessons to be learned and connections to be made between faith and belonging, and this is just the start of that journey. So here's my invitation to you. Let's believe. Let's have faith in one another. Let's have faith that this time together can be the start of something transformational, because we need it. The world needs it. I invite you to choose to stand in this belief with me, because if belonging is an experience and a set of structural conditions, it is also a choice to widen the circle, to welcome everyone in, and to stay until the work is done. Friends, the theme of this year's symposium is Bridges to Belonging, and we thought a lot about this framing. The work we're here to do right now is to build a bridge from crisis to opportunity, from isolation to union, from despair to hope. The charter for belonging is a bridge. And this gathering is a bridge to human connection, to nature, to democracy and decision-making, and to meaning and purpose. The better world we envision is within our reach. So, thank you for being here, and thank you for being you as we continue our work together and build bridges to belonging. Thank you.